Welcome back to the Idle Talk podcast. My name's Peyton, and I'm joined by my best friend, Jacob, and I am back in the U.S., so no more boofed audio quality, so that's great. Today, we are recapping episode 5 of season 46 of Survivor, so spoiler warning for that episode. This episode was called Tiki Man. We're just going to dive straight into it. Jacob, what did you think of this episode?
So, as a whole, I honestly really enjoyed this episode. I thought it had a satisfying ending. I thought the strategy that was seen was really cool. I enjoyed the challenge of the journey. I think this challenge was one of the more unique ones and fun ones. So, I enjoyed that journey more than I typically do most other journeys. I liked the camp life interactions that we got to see on the beach, like with the salsa dancing at Siga. I thought that was pretty fun. And I loved getting to see more of Hunter, because he's who I'm rooting for this season. So I really like getting to see more of him this episode. And I also really liked the outcome of the immunity challenge. So yeah, it was a good episode. I really liked it.
I agree. I think that this was a really solid episode all around. Again, kind of like last week, we got to see, and even more so this week, we got to see all three tribes, which is something we've been really hurting for this season because it's been a Yanu heavy season. And so we finally, it feels like we're actually seeing all the players. And so we actually are starting to see personalities come through that we haven't previously seen. It still is a lot of the same personalities from the other tribes that we already have been seeing, but we're starting to see more of them, which I think is a good thing. But I also don't know if that means that if those specific personalities, which are the ones we're going to talk about, but like Hunter and Maria and Jem, obviously, and different stuff, these are the ones we're seeing. I don't know if we're seeing them because they're going to be some of the first ones to go after the merge, or if they're going to be the ones to go deep. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see, because, I mean, it is the ones that we are really focusing on, they are the players from the other tribes that we've been focusing on the whole time. Because, like, we're not learning a whole lot about Liz, We're just not. And we're not learning a whole lot about Mariah. We're not learning a whole lot about Ben. He's getting a lot of screen time, but we're not learning a lot about him, So there's these people that are kind of still just in the background, and that's just kind of the nature of the show with this many people. It's going to, as we merge in the next episode and the numbers dwindle down, that's going to just go away. But I do like that we're seeing more than just Yanu. And I think that's just kind of a byproduct of the fact that there's only 3 of them. So how much can you actually show us of them at this point? And so I really liked that. And yeah, I guess let's start there, because there's only 3 of them. So we can go ahead and knock Yanu out of the way right at the top here, because that's where the episode starts with Yanu. And then we really don't see them again until after the immunity challenge. And I assume we'll kind of get there in a minute. But right at the top of the episode, they kind of regroup after the Banu vote. And we kind of see Tiffany and Q we see their bond is really close. They have this conversation about Kinsey and where they kind of stand on her. And we kind of are just trying to see what that relationship looks like between the 3 of them. And then Q, at first it seems like he's wanting to quit, but then it comes out that he's just playing up this struggle. So that way, if they have to go back to tribal council, Kinsey doesn't play her shot in the dark, which I think is really smart. I say all this to frame it just in case someone hasn't watched the episode. I think that'd be really silly if you're listening to this and you didn't watch the episode. But I also say all this just to lay out my question to you, Jacob, which is, this next episode, they merge. And we have these 3 from Yanu, right? And so this is a very similar position that we had in Survivor 44 with the Tika 3. Do you think that these 3 are a comparable 3 in terms of closeness? Or, do you think that you could see these 3 going the same distance together? Or do you think there's cracks? Do you think that they're like how do you actually compare? Because I think that this is obviously the closest thing we actually have in terms of the new era is Tika and Yanu. So I'm wondering, what do you make of the Yanu 3? And do you think they can actually stay together all the way, deep post-merge?
I don't see them as strong of a 3 as the Tico were. I think Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Carson were a lot more unified than Q, Kinsey, and Tiffany are. Because I don't think the way the edit is portraying it, I don't think Q really trusts Kinsey at all. He really seems to legitimately want her out of the game. And I don't know if that's going to change in the merge where he realizes that he needs her, or he is going to be on the train of getting her out, because we'll talk about this a little bit, or I guess we can talk about it now, because it involved Yanu. But when they went on the journey, it was Tim, Hunter, and Q. And Q comes up with this brilliant idea of having the meathead alliance of the 3 macho dudes in Hunter, Tim, and Q, the challenge threats. And then they're like, okay, we'll have us 3, and then we can each bring along one person, which is just kind of an interesting way to frame it. And then Q wants to set up this alliance. So it already seems like off the bat, he's at the merge, he's done with Kinsey, and he wants to cut ties with her. So I don't think that they're going to stick it out deep into the game. I think on the flip side, Kinsey probably wants to stick with the 3. I don't know if she's going to be able to rope Q into it. And I don't know if Tiffany is going to want to stay with Kinsey or she's going to want to go with Q. So I personally don't see this 3 sticking it out until the end, because I think there's a lot of cracks on the other tribe. For instance, now, especially with Mariah being on the bottom, now that Maria has flipped. So Mariah is completely on the bottom on that tribe, and Venus being completely on the bottom on Nami. So there's 2 people on the bottom there. And so I think there's a lot of room for flipping this season that we necessarily haven't seen before. Whereas I feel like when we've been going into the merge previously, everyone's been okay, our tribe's strong. We're going in Nami strong. We're going in Stika strong. We're going in Yanu strong. But I feel like there's a lot of room for flipping this season. So I'm interested, because I think it's going to lead for a very messy merge. So I'm kind of excited.
Yeah. I honestly, I think that this is a merge where I just kind of don't know what's going to happen, because we're going into the merge where it's 5-5-3, and so that's not unfamiliar territory, going in with 2 large tribes and a small tribe, and so the small tribe's going to be in a power swing position. But also, what makes this unique is that the 2 large tribes, like you said, they are not unified. And so I actually think this merge tribe, I think that, like you said, the tribal alliances are going to go, I do not foresee Nami and Siga staying Nami and Siga strong for very long. At least not as a whole. I do think there's going to be some backstabbing and some sneaking. And so it's going to be really interesting to see where that happens. And so it's going to be 1 or 2 dissenters in each tribe. It's going to be really interesting to see. But kind of going back to that kind of question I had, and kind of thinking about the Yanu 3 before we move on from that, I do agree. I think that Tiffany, Q, and Kinsey as a whole are not super unified, but I also don't know if they're necessarily. I think they may be more unified than Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Carson were going into the merge, because it's easy for us to think about how unified Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Carson were at the end of the game because of recency. But if we think back, they were going into the merge, especially the Jam Jam and Carolyn were at odds a lot and were bickering and fighting and wanting each other out. They were kind of at each other's throats going into the merge. I don't know if you really recall.
Yeah, I do remember that.
They were out for blood with one another. Jam Jam didn't like Carolyn, and it was Carolyn and Carson were really close. And then Carson was pretty close with Jam Jam. So I think it was similar to where we're at now, but probably maybe even more hostile. But it was a situation where they realized once they went into the merge, they're like, hey, if the three of us stick together, we can go far. Let's put our differences aside and let's just go for it. So I wonder if Yanu is going to have a similar revelation and realize that it doesn't matter. We can actually, it doesn't, like, we can put our differences aside. Because really, I don't think, like, Kenzie's loyal to Q and Tiffany. I don't think she's going to jump ship from them, but Q seems kind of paranoid, thinking that she is. That seems to be Q's only beef with Kenzie, is that he thinks that she's shifty, and that he doesn't like that she's closer to Tiffany than she is to him. So he doesn't have really, I don't think he has really any real beef with her. It's all kind of superficial and made up in his head. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm really interested to see how Yanu maneuvers post-merge, because I think they are really close. The fact that they haven't had, this is their first, like they had fire 11 days in. It was the first time they had fire. They've got to, they've been through so much. They've been to so many tribals, and only one other tribe has gone to tribal council. Just like the fact of, like, that alone, that the fact that Nami's first tribal council is going to be as a merged tribe, that's insane. I think that Yanu has a pretty big advantage on that front if they stay together. So those are my thoughts. Do you have any other thoughts on the Yanu 3 for now? Well, I'm sure we'll probably talk about them once we come back around to the immunity challenge kind of at the end.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else.
Cool. All right. From there, I guess we probably go hit and move into Siga and Nami, because really that's where most of the story lies in this episode. And from here, I guess I just want to kind of know what your thoughts are. Maybe we go talk about Nami, because this is where your boy is. Talk to me about what are your thoughts. Obviously, Hunter is who you're rooting for. It's your number one pick in our preseason draft. What did you think of Hunter this episode? What do you think about him for the future of the game? Talk to me about it.
So I really liked how much screen time he got, because it makes me think either A, okay, he's going to do really well and he's going to go far because they're giving a lot of screen time, or B, they're giving a lot of screen time because he's going to be like first out at merge. Those are like my two thoughts. I feel like he's either making it deep, like really, really deep, potentially final 3, or he's like first gone at merge. I hope it's the former. But so yeah, I really liked how much screen time he got. If for some reason you were listening and you haven't seen this episode, there was a big kind of collective idol search at Nami. They weren't all searching together, but all of them were just knowingly searching for the idol. Like, they were all kind of out there, except for Liz. Liz said that she couldn't even find her shoes, so she wasn't going to go search for an idol.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with homegirl.
So they're all searching for an idol, and we get this really funny interaction with Venus and Hunter, where Venus like comes up to Hunter and she's like in her little confessional, she's like, I'm not leaving this man. Like, he's like Mr. Survivor. If anyone's finding the idol, it's him. And I think this is all really interesting, because I was for certain that Venus would have known where the idol is if production had hidden it in the same spot. But I guess Randon never showed her where he found it, because if he did, I think Venus would have went and got it immediately, unless production hid it in a different place. But I'm pretty sure it was hidden in the same place.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that he really gave her any info. She seemed
other than
pretty
he just
clueless.
had it.
Yeah, she seemed like she had no clue.
So, but I will say the thing I am concerned about now is, what is Hunter gonna do now? Because he found the Beware advantage, but they're merging now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's gonna happen with that. Is he just gonna have a lost? Is he just not gonna be able to vote anymore? Because the conditions of the Beware advantage are you lose your vote until you find the idol. But if he goes to a different beach, like how is that going to work? Is he just not going to have a vote anymore until the end of the game?
So my theory is I think they're just going to put them on Nami Beach. That's my assumption.
I feel like they're going to have to,
because Gem's idol's gone. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Tiffany already has hers. So I think the merge beach is just going to be Nami. So that way it does away with any of those logistics. But Hunter did rebury his box. And they do, it seems like from the teaser that they announced the merge, like they let them know that the merge is happening, like drop your buffs. So he could go get the box and put it in his bag, I guess, in theory, and take it with him, because, and then rebury it, and production would then put the key with it, you know?
Maybe? Yeah, I don't know.
I guess he could take it with him if he was leaving the beach, but I just assume that they're going to just merge on Nami's beach, because that's the least amount of work. That's the only thing that I can make sense of. So yeah, and if he makes it a little confusing, I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know, because then if he wins immunity, he technically hasn't lost an immunity challenge, so he still wouldn't be able to get the idol, but he wouldn't be able to vote, but he'd be immune.
Yeah, this is where it gets weird.
Yeah.
And so technically he can ask, like, if he's confused about any of this, the game they already know the answers to this, and so he can ask production there and they can give him the answers to this. Like, they have standard procedures and all this sort of stuff on site to answer questions. So he knows how this all works on the game, but it's not made very clear to us watching. So I don't actually know how any of this works post-merge.
Yeah.
And that's something that makes this Beware stuff contingent on going to Tribal a little weird, because if you have a tribe like Nami that is just really good and they don't go to Tribal, what happens? You know, I wonder if he just gets the idol, if they just say, all right, well, screw it. You didn't go. Here's your idol, you know? Or, I don't know. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I agree. I did think it was kind of funny, you know, how when he was like looking for the idol, how Venus was just very much just tagging along and lurking and hanging at his hip, and how annoyed he was with that. And it's really the first time we've seen his perception of her. We've seen everyone else's perception of Venus on the tribe, but not Hunter's. And so this was the first time that we've seen, okay, everyone doesn't like it. It's not it's for some reason nobody on Nami likes her.
I feel like there's something deeper going on that production, that I feel like there has to be something deeper going on that is not being shown for them to just like ostracize this girl for seemingly no reason other than they just think she's sly. But I don't know. I feel like there might be something deeper going on that we're just not seeing.
What I think it's gotta be that she just annoys them. That's gotta be it. But the other thing is that Hunter seems to be annoyed by everyone on the tribe.
Except for Tevin.
Even Tevin sometimes. Like, he was annoyed by Soda and Tevin singing.
Yeah.
And like,
he's annoyed by their singing, but I don't think he's annoyed by their personality.
I know.
Like,
but,
who he is.
Yeah. But he just gets annoyed in general, just by the tribe it's just being extra. Like, he just kind of gets annoyed, but he deals with it. But with the Venus interaction, he just can't do it. It seems like for some reason he's just over her. And I haven't seen anything to make me think that she's that like that she's annoying. And that's where I don't know. It seems like a very weird portrayal just because we haven't seen this tribe. So I am really interested to see what happens with Venus post merge, because we've seen enough of her that she's going to be like that. She seems relevant post merge, but she also hasn't played a big role in anything either. So I really am interested to see what she actually does after the merge, because she needs to find allies, because Nami, they're not her allies. Hunter made it pretty clear. Like, based on their conversation, it seemed like Hunter had no intentions of being loyal to her, which sucked. But it seemed very like, hey, we have our 4. We're not like we're gonna do our thing. If you vote with us, cool. If you don't, I don't care. That was very much the vibe that came across, which seemed kind of cutthroat and mean, and I didn't get it. But whatever.
Yeah, it's really lucky that Venus got a really strong tribe to at least be on the bottom on like a super dominant tribe, so you at least just make it to the merge unscathed, and then you can try and work your way into something. So she got pretty lucky there.
Or, I mean, the thing is, I think Venus, if Venus is on another tribe, I think it's a different game for her too. Like, I think she just doesn't
I'm just
gel
saying,
with that tribe. It's the same
I'm
thing
just
with
saying,
Jess. I think Jess would have gelled. If Jess was on another tribe, I think her game could have turned out differently. She just didn't gel with anyone there. And sometimes that's just how Survivor runs. So I don't know what to expect. It's going to be... That's where I'm really interested to see what the dynamics between everyone are post-merge, because like I think there's a good chance, and we're about to move over into Siga, the Vibe tribe. I think that they're going to drive Hunter insane. I think they are going to piss him off so much. He gets annoyed at the little bit of singing happening at Nami. I think the song battles are going to just probably drive him insane, or the singing or what. Like the Vibe tribe probably could just ruin his whole experience on the island, because Hunter seems to have just a very low threshold for silliness, and he just is over it so fast.
Yeah.
And that could also wear out the Siga people, and they're like, all right, this dude's a buzzkill and he's good at challenges, let's get him out of here. And then that makes him target number 1. Like, he was already at the top, but now he's just like top priority. So he's gonna have to be really good at hiding. If he's annoyed, he's got to be really good at putting on an act, because they call themselves the Vibe tribe, and he has shown that he's not a big vibes person.
Yeah.
So moving into the Vibe tribe, what are your thoughts on the Vibe tribe this episode? Because really, they're the tribe we spent the most time with.
Yeah, I like the camp life interactions that we got to see. So the salsa dancing was really cool. I think Ben's personality is coming out a lot more than I expected, and he's turning out to be a much bigger contender than I had anticipated. I think that's pretty clear just from the strategy that he's doing, and also that he was kind of the first person to mention that potentially the BR advantage was planted, that he was able to pick up on that pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Also, something that I was unexpected was the fact that Tim somehow figured out that Jem was the one who planted the beware advantage, that he just like confronted her like straight up about it. I was like, honestly, that's pretty baller move to just confront her straight up about it. I really don't know how he figured out that it was her. It really wasn't explained, other than he just like said something along the lines of like, oh, I like saw like the signs, saw how she was like acting kind of weird. But
I mean, the choices are limited in who it is. And he has already ruled out Charlie and Ben. Yeah. So he has a limited pool that he's picking from. And then he feels good about Maria because he has his like parent connection. So he thinks Maria's his number 1. So really, he's picking between Mariah and Jem. In his brain is who he's picking between. And so, right? Is that all of them? Is there one more? Mariah,
that's it.
Jem, Maria. I feel like I'm missing. No, that's
Tim,
right. Yeah.
Ben and Charlie.
Yeah. Okay. So he's picking between Mariah and Jem, and so I guess he's just assuming Mariah wouldn't do that. So I really think I honestly thought it was probably obvious to most people that it was Jem. Or at least to the guys. I feel like if you're on the guys' side, it would be kind of obvious that Jem would be the one to do it. If you're on the girls' side, it could be any of the 3 guys if you trust all of the girls. You know, your options become a lot more open. But if you trust all 3 dudes and you don't think it's any of them, then I think when you're looking at the options, you're like, all right, I think like Jem is the one that I would be immediately suspicious of, because the way her body language kind of was around all the digging, it looked like she wanted to laugh the whole time. Every time they cut to her, and that could have just been the shot they chose, but it really did look like she was trying her hardest not to laugh while they were all digging.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I think Charlie and Maria are doing a pretty good job with their little alliance. Honestly, I feel like their connection was something that I didn't really anticipate. I didn't really see them kind of being in that middle power position. That wasn't something that I had anticipated. So I think that is pretty cool that they were able to play that position this episode. And then we can kind of segue this into the immunity challenge because Jem eventually finds her idol. And so we go to the immunity challenge and we finally get a Yanu victory. It was really barely. Yeah. They honestly had a pretty big comeback win, honestly. Yeah. They were pretty far behind until the slingshot. So to see them win was, I think, really cool. They were obviously very emotional about it, and you can tell how much it meant to them to finally win. And yeah, if they had lost, I think it's already an issue that needs to be addressed by production in some way. But if they had lost again, I don't know. I don't know what they would have done, because
I would have been pissed if they would have had to go to tribal council again. I would have been really upset that 3 of them would have had to go and they would have had to vote. And I would have been so upset. I just think that would have been the least fun thing in the world to watch.
Yeah. Because also, so there's there's 5 immunity challenges between the merge and like when the game starts in the merge. There's 5 immunity challenges. 5 people go home between the merge and when the game starts, which probably, if there were 2 tribes, could probably be like probably 2 more immunity challenges at least before they merge. Because I think merging at 13 is it's a lot. That's a lot of people on one beach. So I think the merge might be a little early, but with 3 tribes, I think you have to merge a little early because one tribe is just get so down to so few people.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if you think about it, if Randon hadn't been medevaced, they would have gone down to 3 the previous episode.
Yeah.
And then they lost again, so they would have had to go to tribal. They'd be at 2. So they'd be going into this challenge with 2 people. Legit 2 people.
Yeah, they would have tribe swapped. They would have tribe swapped. So did you listen to the On Fire this week at all? So
no, I haven't.
So I listened to the On Fire, and it was a question that was brought up in the episode, which I'm actually glad was brought up. And I think I'm pretty sure it was a question someone wrote in with. I don't think it was a question Jay just straight up asked. I think it was a question that someone wrote in, but it was a question that was posed to Jeff regardless. And it was like, they dwindled down to 3. Clearly there's no tribe swap happening, but do you as production, do you have, like, was there ever a thought of an emergency tribe swap? Like, would you do that? Or if there's not a tribe swap planned for the season, do you not tribe swap? Like, what, like, how do you, like, is there ever a thought to just, oh man, they're getting low, we need to do a tribe swap? And Jeff said that they thought about it and that there is always an option, like there is always the ability to do that. But they always plan the tribe swaps in advance because they try to always like tribe swap it for a reason on a specific episode and try to script it as much as they can. But he said that they do always reserve the right to do a random tribe swap whenever they want. And that wouldn't interfere with the game's fairness in any way, and that they have no problem doing that. So he said that if they did ever feel like it was a critical issue, that they could intervene and do a tribe swap. So they could have done one. I think they should have. I still stand by the fact that I think they should, if they're doing 3 tribes, you tribe swap down into 2. I don't understand why that's not the formula. I think you start from 3, go to 2, and then down to 1. And I think that allows you to do your merge tribe a little later, and you can make the merge tribe a little bit smaller because then you're going down to 2 and then you go down to 1. And I think that allows you to really filter down, and you actually get to like the best player, because Jeff is all about there's nowhere to hide in the 3-tribe format. I think if you're going from 3 to 2 to 1, there is legitimately nowhere to hide. So
I think, yeah, especially if you're merging at 13, there's a lot of ways to fade into the background of a 13-person merged tribe.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways to kind of like just wiggle your way.
There's a lot of...
might not win, but you'll be able to wiggle your way towards the end.
Yeah. There's nowhere to hide pre-merge in a 3-tribe format, but there's a lot of room to hide post-merge. I really just... I don't understand why they don't do 3-2-1. And I just need to understand, because they have to have thought of that. There's no way that an idea that simple is not something that hasn't crossed the table when they've been planning this, because that seems too obvious. So they clearly have said, okay, that won't work. And I just kind of want to know why it won't work from a logistics perspective, because that seems like it makes the most sense.
If they were going to do that, I would want them to do like, start with 3. They do 4 immunity challenges, so they get down to 14, merge in 7-7.
Yep.
And then they dwindle down to 10 and then merge at 10. So then there's 7 on the jury, 3 at final tribal.
It's literally perfect. It's so good. The math is so there. Jeff, it's like, it's so perfect, Jeff. It's so perfect. And this even works with your silly 27-day format that you have. Even if we're not doing 39 days, this works. It works.
I think you need to keep submitting. I think you should submit that question to On Fire every single week.
Yeah, we can just email it. We can set up a recurring email to send in every week. Yeah. All right. We need to move on. We need to keep going. So the immunity challenge, Yanu wins, obviously. Siga loses. The challenge was good. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about during the challenge, but
it's a repeat challenge.
Yeah, they win food. Liz can't eat any of the food, apparently. Found that out afterwards, because Homegirl is allergic to everything. So that's big tough. But what's interesting about this is that afterwards there's the journey. And then on the journey, that's where Hunter, Q, and Tim all go. And so you've got all 3 of the physical threats for post-merge go on that journey. And I have no clue why the 3 tribes were okay with these 3 being the ones going, because Nami straight up said, send whoever you want. And they volunteered it was a volunteer thing where they let these 3 guys go on the journey together.
Yeah.
That seems wild to me. I would have been like, no. Hey, let's talk about this for a second. I understand you want to go bro out with him, but I don't know if you can actually say no in that moment, because that probably isolates yourself. But I would have been like heavily suspicious of like Q wanting to go out on that meeting. Like if I'm Kinsey, I'm freaking out, like that's a big red flag. So, but I will say on this journey, I want to quickly talk about it because we want to go into tribal, but what did you think of the journey? I have thoughts about it, but obviously Hunter is involved in the journey, but what were your thoughts about the execution of the journey? Because we've talked a lot about on the podcast about what we think of winning extra votes and losing votes and journeys and all that sort of stuff. We don't need to rehash that discussion, but what do you think specifically about the implementation of the challenge on this specific journey?
I liked this journey more than most. I think probably my favorite format of the journeys is the one where it's the prisoner's dilemma, where they have the ship's wheel and they risk their vote or protect your vote, and it's the prisoner's dilemma. I think that's probably my favorite version of the journey, because I like it when you're not forced to potentially lose your vote. You're risking it. I like when there's a risk. I don't like it when you're forced to play and potentially lose your vote. So I liked this one better because one of them had to play, but they were able to choose who wanted to play, and the other 2 just went back. So I liked that a lot more, because then you're willingly choosing to go try and earn an advantage at the risk of losing your vote.
Yeah.
So I like the journeys a lot better when there's an option.
Yeah.
So I really liked that aspect a lot better.
Yeah. And I will say the part that I liked even more than that is that they told them in advance, not exactly what the challenge was, but gave them an idea of what it is. And so they had context, which I think is crucial. If you're going to be betting essentially your vote, your lifeblood, you should know what it is, right? If you're going to be going in doing a sweat or a savvy or a whatever, doing Survivor trivia, like giving them that bit of context, even though they didn't know it was logos, putting them in order, the fact that it was that little bit of extra information, I think that context makes me very okay with this implementation of the journey. Because then I think that all three of them, Hunter, Tim, and Q, they all had enough context to mutually decide, all right, who's going to stay behind and do this. Even though one of them is forced to do it, they can come to a mutual decision. Hunter was completely down with staying, wanted to do it. He was 100%, he wasn't reluctant about it. He was upset once he got there and he was like, I don't know it. But he was confident in his knowledge and was excited to do it anyways. So I think that this was probably the best possible implementation of a risk reward relating to your vote, because I think they gave all the necessary context you needed, and there was a choice that was made, and there was an option to opt out. So I think that it was a really good way to make it work.
Yeah.
So obviously Hunter loses his vote. He can't put them in order. I wouldn't have been able to put them all in order. I think I would have got pretty close, because I know 20 is a lot. It was half of them. Like, that's 20, a lot.
20 is a lot to put in order, and if you mess up one, you lose. And I've seen a lot of people kind of complaining about that challenge, because people are like, oh, we're tired of people casting super fans, but then you kind of wouldn't know this information unless you were a super fan. So it's kind of like counterintuitive. You kind of have one or the other. But me personally, if I wasn't a super fan and I got cast on Survivor, I'd be doing my homework. I'd be doing research.
Yeah, and
I would, if I got cast, I'd go through and watch every single season if I got cast.
Yeah, and Jeff actually talks about that in On Fire. I don't want to dive into too much about what he says, because if anyone's interested, they can just go listen to what he says in On Fire. But basically, he says that any challenge in Survivor ostracizes people. Someone is always going to have an advantage in any challenge.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone who is naturally inclined to do better. There's always going to be someone who's better at slide puzzles. There's always going to be someone who's better at physical challenges. There's always going to be someone who's better at endurance. Nothing is going to be perfectly fair for everybody. And so he said that he never wanted to do something like this that could put a super fan at an advantage, because he felt like what you're saying and what other people are saying is that it could be, not everyone could do it. But once he realized that that's the case with any challenge, is that there are people who are always going to have an advantage in specific challenges. Once he realized that, he was okay with implementing it in the game, and then putting it in a journey in this way, I think makes it better. If it was just in a regular challenge, or if it was in, say an individual immunity challenge, okay, that probably not a good idea. Let's not put this in an individual immunity challenge. That's not a great idea. In a journey, though, where they're making the decision to go do this, I'm fine with that. And I think Jeff made a really fair point where I was like, all right, I got no problem with that being the thing. I think, if you don't know it, you don't know it. That's fine. Some people are better at some things than others. I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
So, to bring this all to a close, because we're coming to the very end of our time here, so I just want to wrap up here quickly in the last couple minutes. The whole episode comes to an end after the journey. Siga lost the immunity challenge, and really the vote is coming down to one of two people. It's going to either be Ben or, surprisingly, Jem, which...
Yeah, I was... That came out of left field.
Not where I thought it was going to go at all. And
the fact that she was even brought up, I was shocked.
Yeah, and so it was really crazy because it really just kind of came up at the very end because she started just playing too hard. And really, it was just, she started playing too hard with some specific people, like Ben, right? She started, the person that she's wanting to vote out, she's playing too hard with. And if you're going to start scaring the person that you're trying to vote out, that becomes a problem because now he's going to start scrambling. And that is going to start causing problems amongst the tribe. And now other votes are going to start flipping towards you. And so now Ben was able to pitch Charlie and Maria on targeting Jim and get Maria's extra vote. And now all the momentum shifts over towards Jim. So I think Charlie is still, or not Charlie, I think Ben is still in a scary position on Sega where he's like, I think he's still going to be probably the vote, later. But he was able to take where all the momentum was on him and he was able to flip it completely on Jim and get out probably the person with the most momentum going into the merge out.
Yeah.
And no one even realized that she was in the most powerful position, which I think is a fantastic move. Nobody's going to even realize it until they watch the episodes and realize that she had an idol. Mm-hmm. No one knew.
Yeah, I think so she found the idol this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like she got the idol right after they lost that immunity challenge and then immediately goes home, which is crazy. Really sucks for her. I honestly feel kind of bad. Apparently I saw that she was like really pissed as she was leaving the tribal, said a big like F you to her tribe mates as she was leaving, which I kind of wish they left that in because I love Messy Survivor.
I want some drama.
Messy Survivor. But crazy. I was really shocked.
Legit blindside.
I for sure thought Ben was going. I thought it was going to be Ben. I did not think Maria would flip on Jim. I thought that she was more tight with the women. I think that speaks to Charlie being a really good player because Charlie was closer to the men and Charlie was able to convince Maria to go with him and go with the men. So I think Charlie is someone to look out for in the post-merge.
And was able to get rid of Maria's extra vote before the merge.
Yeah.
Because, and
she didn't even need to use it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's her advantage, not his. It's gone. Doesn't have to worry about it. There's no advantages on Sega anymore. It is very interesting. So Jim's gone now. Mariah is the only other dissenting vote besides Jim's vote. So Mariah's clearly on the bottom of Sega. So her position also now is interesting going into the merge where it's looking like, Mariah on the outs, Venus is on the outs of Nami, probably also Liz potentially.
But the thing is, I don't think
Kenzie,
Liz knows
maybe.
She's on the outs.
Yeah. But you've got Mariah and Venus are in a weird spot. But I think Mariah just didn't know what was happening. I think Mariah is going to be fine. I really just don't know what's going to happen next episode. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see how it all plays out. But right now my draft is looking rough. I'm
going into the merge with quite a few more people.
You are, but I honestly, it's just the way it played out. I couldn't have, there's no way to anticipate a medevac for literally no reason. You can't anticipate a tribe being decimated.
A disaster.
In a historical way that no one could have ever anticipated. Who would have thought Jess, her performance, she should have been good. And she was yours, right? You know, that shouldn't have happened. And Jelinski and all. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. It is what it is. We'll make do with it. Here's the thing. I don't care. You're going in with more than me. That's fine. I just need the winner. Even though I think you have the winner, because I still think it's Tiffany.
Winner. I think I have the winner,
I still think it's Tiffany, but we'll see what happens. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up? Because I do have a doctor's appointment I need to run to.
I really enjoyed this episode. Looking forward to next week. Looking forward to the merge.
Mhm.
I know we're gonna get the annoying thing that I don't like, where it's the merge, but they're not really merged, and then half of them will get their buffs, and the other half won't, and then one person's gonna have to pick their side. I know we're gonna get that run around, which I don't really care for, but
we'll get that.
It is what it is. We'll deal with it when we get to it. But thank you for tuning into this episode of the Idle Talk podcast. You can check us out wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can check us out on social media on Instagram and TikTok at the Idle Talk podcast, or just at Idle Talk podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why I keep bringing in the. We still have an episode to come out about Survivor Australia. Our content on our very riveting content that we know you're all excited for about watching through the past seasons has kind of been interrupted by Peyton's international travels, but we're planning to get more back on that schedule. We still need to watch through Africa before we can push that content out, so it might be a little bit of a drought in that area until we can get some Africa content out for you guys, but still got a little bit more content dropping for Survivor Season 2, the Australian Outback, so keep an eye out for that, and we're going to continue reviewing Season 46 as it's airing. Thanks for listening.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.